Recording in progress.
Go ahead, Chair.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the February 20th meeting of the Committee of Bar Examiners Subcommittee on Examination Development. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. I'm calling this meeting to order. Adrian, can you please call the roll?
Of course. Lawrence? Reed?
Here.
Judge Reyna? Silva Guzman?
Here.
Smith? With 3 members, we have quorum, Chair.
Thank you. As required by Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, the members are to appear visibly on camera during teleconference meetings, except if a member is unable to appear by video due to connectivity challenges. We ask that any members who are present with their cameras off state their names and reasons for not being on camera. Additionally, if a member joins the meeting after roll call, they should raise their hand virtually to notify the chair and the public of their presence. If their camera is off, they should provide an explanation. Members should also raise their hands when leaving and returning to the meeting if they will be absent for more than 5 minutes. I'm going to start this meeting with a call for public comment. Before we begin public comment, I would like to remind everyone that under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, public comments must pertain to items that are on the agenda or be related to matters that are within the jurisdiction of this agency. Specifically, the subcommittee exercises oversight of the development of the California bar examination and the first-year law students examination. The subcommittee does not have authority over attorney discipline, and there are no attorney discipline matters on the agenda for today's meeting. Members of the public wishing to comment were encouraged to submit written comments prior to the meeting to ensure that the subcommittee would have time to consider those comments. The subcommittee reviews written public comments ahead of the meeting. To facilitate hearing as many members of the public as possible, I encourage you not to repeat points that were made by the previous speakers. Additionally, as the chair of the Subcommittee on Examination Development, I am going to exercise the option to limit each speaker's time to 2 minutes. For those who are participating by Zoom video, you should have a function for virtually raising your hand. It's a hand icon and should appear at the bottom center of your screen. If you wish to address the subcommittee, please click on the hand icon now, and the committee coordinator will call on you in the order that hands are received. For those that are participating by phone, you may virtually raise your hand by pressing *9. That's the star key and then the number 9. Again, doing so will alert staff that you would like to make a comment, and the committee coordinator will call on you and open your microphone so that you can address the committee. For those who are participating from a noticed location, please alert the committee member or the State Bar staff member present in the room that you would like to make a comment. Staff will have an on-screen countdown timer visible to all attendees during the duration of your public comment. The timer's 2-minute countdown will begin as soon as you start your comment, and the on-screen timer will flash throughout the final 10 seconds. Let's go to the advanced signups. I believe we have one. Is that right, Adrian?
We did. Let me see if they are in the attendance.
Thank you.
I do not see them in attendance.
Okay. Subcommittee.
I apologize, Chair.
Oh.
They just raised their hand.
Okay, perfect. We can recognize Mr. Hunt.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing me out here today. As the Dean of the California School of Law, a registered unaccredited law school, I was coming to continue to encourage the State Bar of California to adopt the next gen UBE. We were very encouraged with the Committee of Bar Examiners approving it, and I was under the impression that this was going to be with the Board of Trustees today, but I saw that that meeting is in February, so I'll be there as well. I sort of thought there were 2 issues that were sort of left unresolved. The first one being attempting to do the bar exam online, which happened in February, and I wanted to discuss how difficult that I think that will be, and probably isn't something that's going to be able to be done for the next 10 or so plus years. The other issue that I thought was left unaddressed was the desire for there to be um, better success on the bar exam for minority students. And well, I agree with that completely. It's one of the main reasons I opened the law school. Um, we do have to have a bar exam, and the uniform bar exam will hopefully meet all of those needs. And once we do have the uniform bar exam, we can then go forward and address how to have better success of minority students on that exam. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dean Hunt. And I believe I might have skipped over if there were any commenters at the noticed locations, the other noticed locations. Are there any in LA?
No.
Okay. Any in San Francisco?
No.
Okay, great. Then we can proceed forward with the raised hands.
Of course. Looks like we have a Ray Hayden.
Hi, everybody. I have something to read real quick. Let's go through that. I've been saying it since long before 2023 that due to the cost of hosting the exam, CalBar cannot afford this, and all efforts to continue on this path is increasingly unfair to exam takers. The State Bar Admission Fund is currently operating in a structural deficit and depleting its reserve fund. How will it pay for the additional millions in licensing fees without making it even more unfair to exam takers? Even the Arkansas Supreme Court decided to make their bar wait and see how the new next-gen bar exam unfolds. Any cost-benefit analysis must clearly highlight the actual licensing fee cost differential between Kaplan and next-gen. Kaplan is a mandatory cost at a minimum of 6.1 to 8.25 million over the next 5 years. Next-gen licensing fees will cost an additional $3 million per year. The approximately 15 million in additional next-gen licensing fees over a 5-year period is not included in the current draft analysis, nor is any explanation on how the State Bar will pay for these additional $15 million in fees over the next 5-year period, but we all know that's going to fall on exam takers. That's the only place you can get the money from that I can see in all the rules and regulations and legislation stuff. The other thing is I sent in a written submission beforehand for other meetings, but I think for this meeting specifically, I think I sent one directly to you. I just want to know if you all got it. It was from Ray Hayden, JD, whatever. And okay, if you had the thanks, Donna. So if you had the opportunity to read it, that was cool. But that's the situation. There was that's pretty much it. So you had the opportunity to look it over. And with that, I'm gonna have to give you back my time. Thanks, appreciate it, and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden.
All right, next we have Jules Sarkar. Jules, you've been unmuted.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Jules Sarkar. I'm calling in following up on my written submission. I believe that my written public comment might have been distributed. There might have been a delay, and it's also, I apologize, I incorrectly addressed item 1.1. It's I'm referring to 2.1. That's the draft analysis, cost-benefit analysis report that's for our legislature and the Supreme Court. I identify a number of deficiencies. I hope that you'll, before you approve this draft, you'll look at all of these issues very carefully, specifically what my colleague Mr. Hayden just pointed out. If you're going to analyze the cost, one big cost would be if there's a early termination fee in an existing agreement with Kaplan. That's a cost that needs to be addressed in this report for our legislature and for the Supreme Court. If contracting with the NCBE is going to cost those additional fees, that's something that needs to be included. The State Bar at present, in its other cost-benefit analyses, it shows the actual number of the cost of renting venue spaces for in-person exams. It also knows the cost of administering its remote exams, which it currently does for the first-year law student exam, as well as its certified specialist exams. So it should be able to present these numbers for an actual comparison of what it would cost for contracting with the NCBE, which prohibits remote exams and would require in-person exams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sarkar.
Chair, I see no other hands raised.
Thank you. And thank you all for your public comments and your dedication to attending these meetings. This concludes the public comment period. So we'll move on to items 1 and 1.1, the oral report underneath the chair's report. So the first item is the chair's report. This is the first meeting of the Subcommittee on Examination Development. This subcommittee was created to enhance the Committee of Bar Examiners' oversight of development work related to the California Bar Examination. As a reminder, in August 2025, the Committee of Bar Examiners adopted the charter for the subcommittee. That charter defines its purpose to oversee the preparation, quality control, and integrity of all content included in the California Bar Examination. The subcommittee's primary responsibility is to ensure that every exam question meets legal, psychometric, and fairness standards, and that content development is free from bias, error, and security risks. Over time, this subcommittee will take on a number of important tasks, though the specific tasks will depend on the bar exam that the committee and the board recommend for the future, and that the court directs us to implement. However, tasks could include overseeing the drafting, review, and validation of examination items, ensuring that the scope of tested content remains consistent with guidance and directives issued by the court, advising on and monitoring quality control processes, establishing and reviewing item selection, content rotation, and security protocols, and reviewing post-exam psychometric data and item performance analyses. Today's agenda includes a discussion about the future of the California Bar Examination. Your input will be invaluable as the committee moves forward on this critical issue. The subcommittee will continue to work closely with staff to prepare for and implement the future bar exam that is ultimately adopted. And that concludes my oral report. Next on the agenda is discussion of the draft and analysis of the future bar exam options as required by the California Rule of Court 9.6b, including reporting on cost and efficiency as required by California Business and Professions Code 6046.2. Today, we will be reviewing and providing feedback on a preliminary draft of the analysis to help staff shape the draft that will be discussed by the full committee and the Board of Trustees on March 13th. I think that I am handing it over to Donna for the presentation. Is that right, Donna?
Yes, I will start the presentation and then I'm really just going to level set the background, and then Cody will be taking over for doing the heavy lifting. First, Adrian, if I can ask you to promote Dr. Louise Vary and Dr. Danette McKinley from the attendee pool. And I'm going to turn off my video because my connection is not good, and so I don't want to avoid the lag. So I appreciate that the chair described this appropriately as the preliminary draft analysis. The plan is that a complete draft analysis will be presented at the March 13th joint meeting of the Committee of Bar Examiners and the Board of Trustees. The focus for today, we're going to be asking you to focus your attention primarily on the part of the cost-benefit analysis or risk-benefit analysis that identifies the tangible and intangible risks and benefits for the state bar and the examinees. And Cody will take you through those when we get there. And we think that would be an incredibly valuable place for this subcommittee to provide input and give us direction to help shape this draft over the course of the next couple of weeks, so we can present a complete draft to the board and the Committee of Bar Examiners. First, what I would like to do is just a little bit of level setting for the subcommittee members as well as the public that may be listening. I just wanted to remind you a bit of where we are now and how we got there. So as a start, because I can't resist the temptation to say this at every possible meeting, as of July 2028, we must offer something different for the bar exam than we are offering today. Today, as you all well know, we are offering the multi-state bar exam for the 200 question multiple choice portion of the exam. And then we offer the California essays and performance tests, the essays and performance tests that we've been delivering for years. As of February 2028, and that will be the last time that the MBE will be offered as a standalone product, meaning that the July 2028 exam has to be something different than today. We are on the timeline that we are because of that, as well as the notice requirements. We have to give 2 years notice prior to any alteration of the bar exam that would substantially alter how somebody has to prepare for the exam. We have to give 18 months notice if we are switching the vendor for the multiple choice questions, but not otherwise affecting, materially altering the way that somebody needs to prepare for the exam. So that's sort of why we're here in the first place. We have to adopt something new, and we have to do it on the timeline that we've been moving forward on, or we have to adopt something and make a decision and a recommendation to the court. So how do we do that? Well, we have to provide a risk-benefit analysis, also referred to as a cost-benefit analysis, to the California Supreme Court. The Supreme Court requires that analysis similar to the 2-year notice requirement. That analysis must be provided for any material alteration in the exam that substantially alters the how examinees have to prepare for that exam. The risk-benefit analysis, which is attached to this agenda item, includes things such as the tangible and intangible benefits to the state bar and to examinees, the direct and indirect costs for the state bar and the examinees, the time it would take to competently implement the new exam proposed, and resource requirements, including staffing requirements for the state bar. In addition to that risk-benefit analysis required by the rules, we also need to report on whether adopting the uniform bar exam would be more efficient and cost less than adopting anything other than the uniform bar exam. That is a statutory requirement. We are required to issue that report by November 2026. Luckily, the two requirements align, and so the single risk-benefit analysis that we'll be providing also satisfies that requirement for reporting on the costs and efficiencies. So understanding that this is the backdrop that the legal backdrop that we face, as everybody here well knows, when the Committee of Bar Examiners and the board met on January 23rd, following a series of meetings and prior discussions that started as early as May of this year, the Committee of Bar Examiners recommended to the board that the board recommend to the Supreme Court adoption of the Next Gen UBE without a California component. The board said, not feeling that they were ready to land on one single option, asked staff to continue to explore two options to include within that cost-benefit analysis, one being that next-gen UBE without a California component, as CBE recommended, and the other continuing the use of the Kaplan-created multiple choice questions as a way to buy some time to get some more information. So it would be switching to those Kaplan questions while we have time to determine what the future should be. That would allow for more opportunities or that would allow for opportunities for the next gen UBE to actually be tested, and for us to get some more data on their performance. Next slide. So to help drive the conversation at the January 23rd meeting, in December of 2025, staff asked the Board of Trustees and the Committee of Bar Examiners to preliminarily identify their thinking about the top 5 principles and priorities, the guiding principles and priorities that should drive the decision making. With the understanding that the January 23rd discussion itself would likely impact people's individual considerations of what these most important factors were. But just for context setting, we just wanted to remind you of the 5 guiding principles and priorities that the board and the Committee of Bar Examiners members had preliminarily identified as the top 5 in the lead into the discussion in January 2026. And that was that the exam must be accessible, affordable, fair, and equitable. Doing it right is more important than doing it fast or doing it cheap. The principle of delivering a reliable and predictable exam, the goal of assessing the minimum competence to practice law in California, and a priority of considering both remote and in-person options. Next slide. So similarly, we asked the members of the Committee of Bar Examiners and the board, again, sort of to help drive the conversation that we were going to have in January, to identify what factors they thought were the most important. These factors, or these considerations, as they were called in the survey, were largely derived from the guiding principles and the priorities themselves, but it was sort of another opportunity to hear what people thought were the most important things that should ultimately lead to the direction for the new bar exam. And again, you do see some similarity appropriately between this slide and the last slide. The top factors here were the alignment with knowledge and skills, the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for entry-level practice in California, the assessment of California law and competence. Cost and access considerations also should be among the top factors that are considered in deciding what the future bar exam would look like, long-term continuity, and focus on applied skills. The next slide identifies, and we talked about this largely in the first slide, but just again breaking down what the 2 options are that the cost-benefit analysis or risk-benefit analysis goes into. So the first we are calling use of Kaplan. This would be the use of the Kaplan-developed multiple-choice questions, essays, and the performance test, as well as the existing item bank of essays and performance tests, using that content on the exam as early as February 2028 or starting in July 2028. With that approach, the State Bar obviously is responsible for development of the items. We would be content validating all of the multiple choice questions and the essays and the performance tests that are produced by Kaplan Exam Services. This option provides the time necessary to evaluate the next gen in practice, right? So if we if you all want to ensure that the technology is able to support the load of all of the jurisdictions going live on next gen, and have an opportunity to review the performance data before making a decision about what the future exam would be, this option would allow you to do that. Just to set the stage here, in order to assess the technology and how the technology performs, as well as how the examinees perform on the exam, the vast majority of the jurisdictions will be going live in July of 2028. That's when the larger jurisdictions also will be going live. And so if we wanted to take the opportunity to assess the performance of the technology and the performance of the examinees, that would happen after the July 2028 exam. So we would be able to recommend, you would be able to recommend to the Supreme Court no earlier than July of 29 in all likelihood, what the future would be, whether that is going with Next Gen UBE or developing a new California specific exam. If that recommendation is made and adopted in July of 2029, giving the required 2-year notice, that would mean that the first delivery of the Next Gen UBE if that were the option selected, would be July of 2031. Or if the direction were at that point to go ahead and develop a California specific exam, we're talking about a 5 to 10-year development window. So potentially 2039, 2041, if we're talking 10 years for 2039 or so for the implementation of a comprehensive new California exam using that window. Next slide. The second option that we're exploring, adopting the Next Gen UBE without a California specific component, would be effective in July 2028. With that decision, we would be administering the Next Gen UBE, which is 120 standalone multiple choice questions, 3 performance tests, and 6 integrated item sets. This is a 1.5-day test. There are 3 sessions of the test that each have 1/3 of these items. So 40 each session, each 3-hour session is 40 standalone multiple choice questions, 1 performance test, and 2 integrated question sets. If this were the recommendation that were adopted, the state bar would be purchasing license for the full exam from the National Conference of Bar Examiners. We would no longer be developing our own content. We would no longer be responsible for identifying a vendor to provide the exam software platform. We would obviously continue to be responsible for identifying venues, for hiring proctors, for processing testing accommodations. A lot of the testing accommodations would be able to be accommodated within the software and would not require additional work on the part of the state bar. Some of them certainly would still require, for example, if somebody needs a typist, then that is not something that could be handled within the software itself, and that would need to be provided. If adoption of the Next Gen UBE were the option recommended, that also would not foreclose future action. There could be an option to add a California-specific component, either as a sort of tail to that 1.5-day exam, taking that last afternoon, or as a separate exam designed to familiarize the examinees with certain concepts of California law that is deemed important that they are familiar with, as opposed to testing them during a fully proctored exam for the purpose of assessing minimum competence. We could also, after administering the Next Gen UBE, decide that the Supreme Court nonetheless wants to move forward with developing a California-specific exam. Again, we're talking that same 5 to 10-year development window that we have been talking about up until now. And with that, I think I am turning this over to Cody to step you through the preliminary draft analysis, and we'll be looking forward to your input.
Great. Thank you, Donna. Before I start walking us through some elements in the report and asking for feedback, just a quick additional pieces of context. Donna already largely covered this, but the final version of this report is meant to respond to both the requirements in Rule 9.6b and Business and Professions Code 6046.2. As just a quick aside, to provide an update to the members, a very new update, the author of the bill that led to the requirements in Business and Professions Code 6046.2, Assemblymember Diane Dixon, just introduced a new bill. This was on Wednesday, which is Assembly Bill 2109, which would require the Committee of Bar Examiners to adopt the Next Gen UBE on January 1st, 2029. That bill's only been introduced. It's been just a few days. So regardless of that update, the committee and the board will continue to develop this report and together continue to work towards making a recommendation to the Supreme Court. But we wanted to just make sure that members were aware of this update. It's been covered by at least a couple of journals as well. So what is it that you all are going to be reviewing? Just to set the stage here, what is attached to the agenda is a very preliminary draft of this report. And you'll note that there are section headers with no content because we have not yet built out those areas. There are elements of the report where we have indicated where there's going to be where we know what content will be added, but it's pending, and we've identified that. And so there's certainly more work to be done on this report. However, kind of the meat of this report and where this discussion I think is really going to focus on is the section that covers the tangible and intangible benefits and risks for examinees in the state bar. And this is an analysis that's required under Rule 9.6b1. And let me just describe kind of how it's framed in our preliminary analysis. The preliminary draft kind of organizes the benefits and risks into the categories that you see on the screen. These categories are worded differently than the principles that the board and committee adopted because these have helped us kind of organize and categorize the risks and benefits into the most kind of easy to understand categories. But by and large, these categories are meant to align with those guiding principles and priorities that have already been adopted. So there's certainly a lot of overlap you can see in point one, fairness, equity, and affordability, and the guiding principles around that. And certainly administration mode and flexibility is related, and technology and system reliability is related to remote and in-person examinations. So there's a lot of overlap, but the language looks somewhat different just for, I think, improvement of the organization of the different benefits. What I would like to do now is I want to take this slide deck off the screen. And what I would like to do is show the tables in the report that are in this section on tangible and intangible benefits and walk through with our subcommittee members what has already been identified by staff and our consultants as possible risks and benefits to examinees in the state bar. And I'd like to put this on the screen with track change mode enabled. And I'd really like to just walk us through a discussion about whether or not we're capturing the right risks and benefits, whether you all have any questions about some of the risks and benefits that we've identified, and generally just capture any modifications or changes or additions that you all would like to add or have reflected in the next draft that goes to the committee and the board at the March 13th meeting. And we don't need to spend too much time kind of quibbling on the language the way that we might when we're passing a resolution. What I will do is I will capture kind of the intent and the concepts, and then we will take it back and work up a next draft. So let me switch over to that document and we can begin that part of the discussion. Okay. So in that section on tangible and intangible benefits and risks, our first kind of category is fairness, equity, and affordability. And just to tee it up, a kind of summary that we've included in the report thus far describes this criterion as whether or not the exam option minimizes the disparate impact based on race, gender, ethnicity, disability, and other immutable characteristics. And in considering whether or not an option kind of meets the fairness, equity, and affordability goals, the consideration of options balances both the board's directives that we should do it right as opposed to doing it fast or cheap. And it also considers the way that mode and method of delivery of the exam could impact fairness or create financial barriers that impede access. So, we'll certainly continue to kind of refine these definitions, but that's our current kind of working definition for this category. And just to kind of summarize what we've brought forward thus far, we have on the left side option 1, which is our use of Kaplan. We have identified a benefit to the State Bar being that the State Bar retains full control over the design of the exam. And what that means is that we also control specific equity initiatives to meet equity goals as it relates to outcomes on the exam. A risk to the State Bar is that the State Bar's content review panels and EDGE team are responsible for the final assessment of whether items are biased, which means that ultimately we bear kind of the full responsibility of the quality of the work and review. And certainly we've taken steps already to improve our content review process, but there is risk in kind of being the owner of those tasks. When it comes to benefits for examinees, there is the potential for reduced travel costs in the future if we choose this option, because it provides future flexibility to pursue remote and small test center administrations. And if implemented, that could minimize financial barriers. But of course, that approach is not anticipated, at least initially, in 2028. And for risks to examinees, under option 1, we've identified, certainly depending on the requirements of our exam vendor, the new platform could create inequitable testing environments for some certain computer equipment. Depending on the vendor's minimum system requirements, it can create circumstance where some users' hardware really isn't up to the task. And adopting a new platform, the vendor that would administer this exam could increase the cost of participation in the exam, because certainly we would need to procure a vendor at costs that are negotiated with that vendor, but we certainly would be relying on vendor costs, and many of those costs kind of are passed on to applicants depending on which choice we make in the procurement process. And then I'll just quickly go through option 2, and then I'll open up the floor.
Yeah, Cody.
Sorry, Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just add, so so in the benefits of the examinees, we talk about the future potential for reduced travel costs as remote and small test center-based administration is implemented. At this point, staff cannot predict when we believe that, when we feel that the technology, or when we will feel that the technology is there to support the remote administration. We certainly know it's not, we do not anticipate that we would be able to do that in 2028. I would suspect that it would be, it's not going to be immediately thereafter. Obviously technology improves at phenomenal speeds, but we don't have any reason to believe at this time that we are looking at an immediate future where we would be able to issue, to administer the exam remotely. And I just wanted to be clear about that, because that is, I know, one of the considerations that is important is the access to having the possibility of a remote exam.
So looking at option 2, and then as I mentioned, I'll open up discussion here. But benefits to the State Bar under the Adopt Next Gen UBE option, we believe, based on our understanding, Next Gen, the NCBE has leveraged experts on user experience to address some fairness and equitability issues. And the platform that they use to administer the exam, the software, because of that input, addresses many of the accessibility needs that are most requested, or more requested than remote administration as a testing accommodation. At the last meeting, I think Donna and Tara on our team shared some observations from the beta test of the Next Gen exam, and I think shared some of the built-in accessibility features related to maybe screen resolution, font size, audio, and speech to text. So features that are meant to enhance accessibility are built right in, and that's not necessarily a guarantee with the vendors that would be considered for the use of Kaplan option, although we certainly strive to find the most kind of feature-heavy vendors. On the risk to the state bar would rely entirely on the NCBE's fairness review. This is kind of the flip side of the other option, which is that the state bar bears the full responsibility of the review of questions. For option 2, the state bar has really no role to play in reviewing questions for fairness or bias, and so there's certainly a lack of control there. Another risk, the state bar cannot directly intervene to adjust the exam for California specific equity goals, and the state bar has no ability to negotiate the license and technology fees. Really, those are set by the NCBE, and many of those fees are passed down to examinees through our state bar fees. On the benefits to examinees side, examinees are tested on a nationally validated instrument that's used by at least 48 other jurisdictions. The platform, as I mentioned, addresses accessibility needs, including large font, speech to text, some of those examples that I provided. And on the risk side to examinees, the nature of having a computer-based administration and one like the next-gen UBE, which will not allow handwriting as a preference, means that the requirement for test takers, examinees to bring their own laptop is even greater. And that creates, potential financial barriers for those without compliant devices. So let me stop there. And this is where I want to open the floor and hear from members. Are there questions about any of these points? Are there risks or benefits that you feel are missing? Let me just open it up. We'll take feedback, and I'll make any adjustments to the document as we are speaking.
So I don't know how well it fits into your structure here, but I think one thing that might be interesting to try to figure out is what the cost to an examinee might look like under either option. So we've talked a lot about certain costs being passed through to them. Is there a way we can get a sense of how those costs get allocated? So like, for example, I assume the license fee from NCBE is a pass-through, right? So I'm going to make up a number. If they're charging us $50 an exam, the base for an exam is going to be $50 plus whatever our additional costs are, right? And we do this now. There's an exercise where the bar figures out what the cost needs to be to recover, the price needs to be to recover our cost. It would be helpful if we could come up with some sort of estimate. This is approximately what the cost would be using Kaplan. This is approximately what the cost would be using NextGen, taking into account the additional cost of the license fee, but perhaps also the reduced costs of staffing needed at the test centers because you don't have the physical materials. Because I think what I'm hearing in the public comments is this concern about the pass-through costs. And I think it would be helpful if we get a sense of what that actually looks like when I don't recall how it works, but I assume like certain things like the Kaplan contract are like, I don't know if that's overhead that then gets allocated to examine. Like, I don't know how that works, but it would be useful if we could kind of figure that out and then come up with probably not a precise number, but a range of what that price looks like to sort of either figure out if there's a real issue there. I would think at some point there's benefit to scale usually in most things, right? And so national conference doing something for 48 plus jurisdictions at the end of the day should be cheaper than somebody doing something for one jurisdiction, but I don't know if that's true or not. And so it'd be useful if we could figure out a way to suss that out.
And that is most certainly our plan. You may recall at the January joint meeting, we had a chart that had arrows, basically, that was suggesting if there would be increased costs or decreased costs within a range of, an increase of less than 500,000, between 500,000 and $1 million, and more than $1 million, and decreases of the similar value. We're going to try and get more specific with that, but there are caveats, right? There's information that we don't have today. So we will need to get test sites for Kaplan. We will need to get test site for using Kaplan. We'll need to get test sites for adopting next-gen UBEs, right? So that's going to be a wash across. But things, so the NCBE has set the cost of the exam and the technology fee through July 2028. I don't know what it's going to be after that, but I do have that, we do have that cost through July 2028. What I don't know is what the cost would be for an exam software platform for that we would use if we were going to continue use of Kaplan. We could speculate that that for a placeholder at the very least, we'll use the same cost that we are using for that we are paying ExamSoft right now. Ultimately, is that going to be the platform that we are going to end up with? Are we going to want a platform with different bells and whistles? Are we going to want to be able to load the multiple choice questions into the system? That will cost more, right? So there's going to be a lot of unknowns, and we'll caveat all that. But yes, that was absolutely the intention. We would lay out increased or decreased staff resources depending on the option. The other caveat that I just want to be crystal clear about is the cost comparison is adopting the next gen UBE versus continuing to use Kaplan until a further decision is made. So it's not good. We don't know what that further decision might be. And frankly, one of the reason that we use sort of the graphical illustration at the January meeting was because there were 8 options and we just couldn't possibly cost them all out. But now that we're down to 2, that is our plan to do the best that we can on figuring that out.
Got it. That makes sense. Thanks.
I think we also had seen that there might be some costs to getting an early cancellation with Kaplan. Is that something that needs to be put into the use of the Kaplan, or sorry, adoption of the next gen, or is that separate?
Yeah, so that would be part of the cost, and I think it is also referenced in that high-level graphical illustration. There is an early termination penalty if we terminate the contract before the 5 years is up. That the amount of that early termination penalty is set forth in the contract. We also have begun conversations, and Kaplan is open to having conversations about, despite the fact that it is in the contract, is there a way to reduce or eliminate that fee? Is there a benefit that Kaplan can get in exchange for eliminating that prepayment penalty? So those discussions would have to continue, but we do have the dollar amount of what that would look like.
And then one of the other points, I think one of our I think it might have been Danette maybe who brought it up when we had the last meeting, is that we wouldn't, if we just went straight to next gen UBE, that we wouldn't, and without a California portion, that we wouldn't have the opportunity to test our banks for viability of like the other essay exams or anything, or essay questions or anything like that. So I think that might also be maybe a risk to the state bar that I would maybe want to see apportioned out as well, since that would prevent us from, maybe making progress towards another option if it doesn't work out. And I see Danette's hand.
I believe we cover that in a different section because this one was the fairness, like there were different considerations. I believe
Gotcha.
that's in a different part of this, and it will definitely come up for further discussion.
Gotcha. Perfect.
An additional thought on the idea of the early, this issue of the early termination fee. We should think about whether there's other things we might want Kaplan to do. So if we're doing like this, if we're looking at next gen, but then we may still, perhaps the committee and the board still want to consider a future California specific bar exam on that 5 to 10 year time horizon. Kaplan might be a part of that, right? And so it may be there's an opportunity to discuss that, renegotiate that with them. So we get some benefit out of that agreement. Both parties get some benefit out of that agreement, short of having to terminate it.
Yes.
I am curious because I think the committee and the board have had a number of pretty robust discussions around these considerations. Are there any thoughts about how we've captured, let's say, first the technological risks to examinees for both options? I know, obviously, leaving on the other side of the February exam, there's been a lot of consideration about risk tolerance, whether to continue or what is, or there's been discussion about piloting material or approaches. There's just been, I think, a number of discussions related to how do we ensure the technology is appropriate and works well. And if it doesn't, that seems to pose probably the biggest risk to examinees. So I guess I just wanted to maybe seed a conversation point here, but are there other concerns related to the technology for either using Kaplan, which would be our own procured vendor, or what we know about the next gen exam and how that computer-based exam will be administered, or maybe just questions about those?
This is Julie. Going back real quick to the fairness and equity issues. I had one point where I think we discussed before that if there's any California specific testing accommodation laws that are more strict or stringent than the national average, or that the NCBE accommodates, that might be a risk to the state bar. That if California applicants aren't having their accommodations met pursuant to California law, that might be a risk to the state bar.
Do we know if I feel like this might be something I should know, but I know we have all of these like really detailed data points about how certain demographics are testing and things like that. Do we know if NCBE is going to be maintaining that by state, or is it just based off of the entirety of the population, not broken down by state? Because I feel like having the data points, if we can get those from next gen, great. But if we can't, that might also be a way to, or maybe a risk if we can't see how it's being tested and if it's being administered equitably.
Yeah, so my understanding is that there will be state by state reporting. We have had some preliminary conversations with NCBE. They haven't they can't commit to all of exactly what the fields are that are going to be captured at this point, what's going to be reported. But yeah, my understanding is that California would be able to get information on California's test takers. And we would be able to identify those kinds of issues. We had specifically talked about those things that we are very interested in, that we look at today, the kinds of statistics that we try and report. Whether information from other states would be available to us may depend on the other states.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Cody, maybe you should move on to the next area of this exercise, right? So that was fairness, equity, and affordability. We're moving on here to the risks and benefits with regard to this follow-up issue. Maybe before we proceed, just asking the committee, because I know both of our members who are attending from state bar offices are looking at this at a somewhat distant screen. So is it helpful to have Cody summarize the benefits and risks that are in this chart, or do you have this on your personal device and maybe we just let you just start commenting without the summaries?
I'm good either way, but I'm good without the summaries. Unless you really want
No,
to read through it.
I don't need to read it if you've got the materials. Julie, does that work for you as well?
That works for me too. If you have any comments, those are appreciated, but I can see it pretty well here on the screen.
Okay, great. That way I can get out of the way a little bit and you guys can contribute more. So that works for me as well. So we are on to preparation resources. I won't summarize the risks and benefits, but I'll just give the definition just to tee it up. This is obviously defining whether or not the exam is reliable and predictable. And it also assesses whether the option allows for the timely publication of all the materials someone needs to prepare for the exam, content maps, study guides, and all the other materials needed to prepare effectively. And by doing that, having those materials, that ensures that similarly qualified examinees receive similar results on the exam. So this is the table that we have to date, and I'll just leave it there and open the floor.
Thank you. Do we know if NCBE is working with bar prep providers already?
Donna, you may know, I don't know to the extent that they've licensed any materials, but I think we know for a fact that the large bar prep companies will be creating a large amount of materials and products to provide test takers across the country on the next gen UBE. That is, if you see on row 3, a benefit to examinee, we've noted there's a national marketplace of these materials for the next gen UBE.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that would be my concern, I guess, if we were to looking at the use of Kaplan, is that there might be a reason for bar prep providers to upcharge, California if it were a specifically unique exam. That's what I would think.
Well, and actually that assumes a company would step in to fill that void as well. That very well could be the case, but we certainly have no indication like at this moment that would be the case.
Yeah.
What we had communicated to test takers leading to the February examination, and this would continue to be the case, is that under the use of Kaplan approach, the multiple choice questions were designed in a way to not require a substantial modification for the exam. And so we had communicated to test takers that materials that they had historically been using to prepare for the multiple choice questions were still relevant and could apply. And so that was a prior message. That could be a future message if we ultimately use the Kaplan questions. But obviously that's not an assurance that there's a new product that's available.
So for those of you who were maybe listening to the Law School Council meeting just the other day, there was a discussion from one of the members of the council that there was a concern expressed that the State Bar would never be able to produce enough sample questions for applicants to really be able to prepare. That individual on the Law School Council mentioned their belief that that bar prep professionals tell students to test that they should be practicing 2,000 multiple choice questions, and obviously that's not something that we would anticipate having available as questions that have been exposed that we wouldn't be testing again. We would have available, I think, 50 questions, 25 that were originally released in the student guide, an additional 25 that we would be prepared to release for students to test from. Obviously, as the exam bank, the item bank grows, more questions can be released over time. But I don't see us having that kind of magnitude of questions available at any time in the near future.
All right. Do we think there are any other missing items or missing points that we'd want to see addressed in the preparation resource section? Seeing none.
Okay. I will advance us to the next one.
Perfect.
The next is transparency and stakeholder confidence. I won't give the summary. I think that speaks for itself. And let me just scroll down here and I'll try to capture as much of this table as possible. Just to point out while members are looking at the materials, Ashley, I think this is a section that kind of relates to your prior comment in the risk to the state bar section for option 2. We kind of indicated that the technical documentation, and I think also to some extent the like performance data and other data is something that the state bar wouldn't have full control over under the next gen UBE option. While what we've identified in the first row in option 1 is that the state bar controls all the information that's shared about the exam. That includes, the processes for review and development, but also performance data, and it can be disaggregated in ways that we choose and decide are most important for our mission.
Right. And I think that's also one thing that it would be nice to know is if we're getting California specific, since we have these kind of unique varieties of law schools, if it would be able to be broken down by law school type too. I think that also might be another part of that data that we might not be getting access to, but we don't know.
I guess sort of related to that is the extent sort of a risk to the bar, I guess, on, if the National Conference of Bar Examiners provides data in a form that gives us what we need to know, but it's going to need a lot of work, data cleanup, processing, reworking to get to what we need to know, or what the board asks us, or what the Supreme Court asks us, maybe additional labor cost potentially.
And I think I wonder, I know that one of this risk in the state bar and the use of Kaplan, option 1 is that we would bear full reputational risk. But I also wonder if there would still be some of that if the NCBE isn't able to pull off next gen, because, we can't change anything at that point. We can't correct, we can't. We kind of address that sort of in the stakeholders can't audit the national scoring, but I think it's a little bit maybe deeper than that and more about, we also can't ensure the test takers that we can do anything because we wouldn't really be able to do anything. And potentially not be able to do anything for another 2 years, I think, right? That's how it would work underneath the requirements currently.
Yeah, and actually, I guess that's related to maybe some of the lessons learned from February as well. This could make maybe responding to an exam incident, there may be a kind of a restriction on the options that are available to the committee or the state bar in responding to exam issues, because some of those decisions may be made at the level of the NCB.
Right.
But at the from the other perspective, they have minimum of 48 jurisdictions, and all of the test takers in 48 jurisdictions that they need to fix. If there's a problem that it needs to be fixed, there's going to be very loud voices and a tremendous amount of pressure, because there are so many jurisdictions that are using the exam to get it fixed and fixed correctly.
Do we know what weight each of the maybe not each of the states, but each of the states that have moved over to next gen, is getting in kind of the testing process, auditing, all of that. Like, is there, I don't know, like an equivalent to us on some kind of a board somewhere that NCB is talking to, or are they kind of just totally hands off and NCB is just handling it all until it's released?
No, the jurisdictions are very involved. I would think sort of the sooner you're going online with it, the more heavily involved. But jurisdictions that have committed have absolutely been working closely with NCBE. One of the things that there was a call after the beta test because there were some sort of policy choices that were being tested during the beta test. And so there was a call to get feedback. How did that go? Does that work? Does that not work? And then they sort of subsequently announced some changes to those policy calls, or changes even to how the jurisdiction portal, not what the applicants see, but what the jurisdictions see, how that looks because of feedback that jurisdictions provided during the beta test. And it wasn't like they were discounting, California's perspective, because California hasn't opted yet. But certainly, I think the jurisdictions that are going first have a lot of contact, certainly with the NCBE, to express their needs and their opinions.
Any other points that we think are missing from this section? Okay, I think that might be good.
Okay, so now we are on to administration mode and flexibility. This is related to the availability of the exam, either through remote and in-person delivery options. The risks and benefits are really kind of centered around, the need for caution and minimizing risks, which is a principle that the committee and board adopted, but also, desire to innovate, whether that's remote or some other administration approach that, one option over another would provide flexibility to pursue. And this also includes just that last line, some of the other kind of alternative approaches that members have expressed interest in, including administering the exam more frequently than twice per year.
And on this, I would note that, again, just looking at sort of what individual members of the board and the CBE preliminarily ranked as sort of the most important things, when it came to things like being able to administer it more frequently than twice a year, and some of those other some of that other flexibility, those tended to rank pretty low. They also ranked low from the law school deans and existing licensees and prospective licensees.
And NCBE is pretty static, is that right? I mean, it's not like I mean, this is probably one of the bigger moves that they've made, but we're not expecting them to suddenly change the schedule, or I don't know, change the software in insane ways. Is that right?
I mean, I would say that there's no reason to expect radical changes. One of the things that representatives from the NCB mentioned when they presented to the committee, though, was that they were not closed-minded to remote testing in the future. They just felt that the time wasn't right and wanted to, investigate that further. What that timeline could be is anyone's guess. But I think they certainly communicated that they have a commitment to exploring future options. On the flip side of that, what we've indicated in the second row as a risk to the state bar, I think kind of gets at kind of rapid changes, Ashley, in that, there's a risk that in the use of Kaplan, as the state bar explores different delivery options in the future, and perhaps it's remote administration, there's the risk of investing a significant amount of time and money into a model that the state bar maybe in the future determines it needs to step away from or pivot again. So I think I point to that to just suggest there's maybe some benefit to a slow-paced set of innovation and change, and maybe that's what we see reflected at the NCB.
Seems unlikely with 48 plus jurisdictions adopting next gen that they would make any rapid changes without first consulting at least some of those jurisdictions, I would think.
Exactly right.
Yeah, it's fair.
All right. Any other points that we think are missing from this section? Okay, I think that's pretty encompassing.
This is related to the frequency of the examination. I think it's a similar situation that for option 2, adopting next gen UB, the exam would be administered obviously twice per year in the normal kind of cycle of February and July. One of the things that I think maybe is newer to the conversation is one of the risks that we've identified, which is that under that approach, there is an impact on examinees who fail the exam because under the current scheduling, they must wait 6 months for the next cycle. And for some, that certainly delays their entry into the workforce. And so being stuck with that model really maybe limits the ability to try to address that challenge for some of those test takers.
I feel like this one's a little more straightforward than some of the earlier ones, but does anyone
Yeah.
have any points missing on this one?
We did note the challenge of we sort of characterize it as the ability to retain graders for what would be potentially sort of a year-round grading effort. And it really is sort of a question of, this is certainly one area where you don't want to overpromise. And we certainly want to be able to make sure that if we are offering an exam quarterly or more frequently, that we are able to grade it, to get it graded timely, and otherwise the promise of getting people into the workforce more quickly evaporates.
And so that's a good point. So on the NCB side, the next gen side, they would be doing the grading for all of these. Is that right?
No, they won't. You
Okay.
still have
Yeah,
to hire
we'll do the
your graders
grading.
to grade
Okay.
your examinees.
Perfect. Okay, that's what I was like a little confused about. I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so they'll train the graders. They have a grading platform that the graders would use. They'll train the graders, but we would still hire the graders, and we would hire California graders who would use the rubrics that NCBE develops, but they would do the grading. And we do have about just roughly 15 graders who are participating in grading of the beta test. And so when that grading is over, which is about a week's time, we'll be meeting with our California graders to learn more about that experience.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect.
This is Julie. I had a quick question. If the exam is given more often and there's a smaller pool of test takers per test, does that make calibration more difficult with a smaller pool?
I don't think that the numbers would be so it's not like we're gonna have 10 people per test, right? So I think I think that will be fine. You should understand how vastly different our applicant pool is than other jurisdictions. You know, we're testing 12,000+ people a year, and some jurisdictions test 500 people. So I'm not worried about it getting so low that that it would pose a problem for calibration purposes.
Yeah, and Julie, I'm not sure it's a risk or a benefit, so I'm not going to add as a track change, but since you raised it, I think maybe an interesting impact that could come from that is not calibration, but the analysis we perform on the post-exam data, because there's a lot of consideration regarding where you could analyze the data in a way that considers the differences of the populations of the test takers. And right now we have a general understanding of what a July test taker looks like and what a February test taker looks like. But you can imagine if you add more administrations, kind of understanding what the avatar is of those test takers in each one of those populations would be new. And so that maybe is a psychometric exercise, or maybe it's an exercise for how we report on our statistics, but that adds like a new layer, which I think is kind of interesting.
Thanks.
Okay. Technology and system reliability. I think just to point out, this covers both system reliability, whether the platforms work well and reliably, but also I think there are elements of this table that also include some of the barriers that come with higher technology requirements on the examinees.
And so they've been doing these kind of early, what are we calling them? Testing tests? The betas, there you go. The beta tests. Are those testing for some of these like load questions, or are they mostly testing content? If we know.
I asked a question of NCBE because the beta test that was done in January had 1,500 people. And so they're testing the platform, the ease of use of platform, they're testing the questions, they're sort of testing all of it. And so I asked a question, something along the lines of, so why is it that testing 1,500 people gives you confidence in the load? And they I don't have the specifics of the answer off the top of my head, but they expressed extreme confidence that with all of the testing that they have done, that they've tested that they are that the system is capable of handling the load, is sort of the upshot of it, that they have complete confidence based on the testing that has been done, the numbers of people who have tested the platform, the numbers of times it's been tested, that it will be able to handle the load when 48 jurisdictions, including a jurisdiction, if that were to include a jurisdiction the size of California. That's the information I was given.
I just had a question. I guess one comment to that. I think there are some public comments that have raised some issues with the beta test, that they have a little bit higher fail rates than previous examinations. So I think, looking at the technical capability of the next gen EV is an important consideration. And then I think my question was that somewhere it mentioned that there's another one happening in March, and I was wondering if we'll have results from how that went before our committee meeting, or is that, we're not gonna be able to get see what happens with that yet?
So let me answer both of those. Julie, first, the less than 3% fail rate that was cited in the report, I believe was looking at not, and it was looking at the percent of people that needed to have their laptop switched out. But those were issues that were that could include things like I tripped and dropped my laptop. I forgot my power cord. So things that normally they wouldn't replace somebody's laptop for. And so the percentage of those who needed to be replaced due to issues with the platform itself was significantly smaller. Also, that was one of those lessons learned that I had talked about before that they did when they downloaded with folks. There was an issue with some update that happened like the day before. And so they've now, NCBE and the vendor agreed that there would be no updates within X period of time prior to the exam. So there are things like that they've learned from and have adjusted. So I don't know that's even the 3% was representative of the percentage of people who would need to have their laptops swapped out. They felt like the percentage would be significantly lower than that. And then, I would also note sort of depending on what we're comparing against, I think public comments, we're also comparing it against sort of first year law students exam, which is a, very different exam, different length, different question types, different information that's available in the system, incredibly different volume. Or even the legal specialization exam, again, incredibly different volume that we're talking about. So NCBE is talking to a law school in California about doing a small pilot that is really about testing certain content. And that's tentatively slated for late April. And so it's not a full test. It's one session of a test. And they're looking at some content issues.
Hey, thanks, Donna. I guess what you're referencing, I'm not sure if that's a benefit for the state bar side where we have more control over the technological aspects of it. Like we have complete control over saying, telling our vendors no updates, within X amount of days versus, if we go with the UBE, we're kind of giving, more control to them for it.
I think one of the comments also mentioned or raised who would be paying for these laptops, technical support people for each of the 100. Do we know that?
So there are currently two pieces of the fee for NCBE. I'm going to reverse the numbers. There's a decent chance, but they're very similar. The current license fee, that is the fee that will be charged through July 28, I believe is $145 per licensee. So that's the fee that we would pay. There's an additional technology fee that is $149 per applicant that applicants would pay directly to NCBE. It is the combination of those fees that are contributing to or covering the costs of the backup laptops and the technical support that is available. So that is not something that we would be paying in addition. Certainly not through July 2028. I wouldn't, again, I can't promise what the pricing structure is going to look like after that at this point.
Gotcha. Thank you.
If I could share one more thought about the kind of technological failure piece too. One of the things that we presented to the committee recently was related to the technological failure rate for the first year exam and then legal specialist examination. But that word technical failure, I think is a bit loaded, and I just wanted to add some context. Under both of these options, USIP Kaplan or .NextGen UB, at least as the UB stands today, if you have a technology problem, there's a real-time solution in the use Kaplan option. We give you a handwriting packet and you keep testing right then and there. Under the NextGen UB option, you have one of these backup laptops and give it to you right then and there. What our data on the first year in the legal specialist exam was talking about was not we're not the technological failures that you just solve in real time. If you remember, we spoke to the committee about how kind of laborious it was for staff to reschedule test takers into another session. That's not an option for the bar exam. There's no testing, come back and test the next day. So I just want to just frame kind of an apples and orange thing. Like technological failure for those test takers meant rescheduling their session. What's being described here is more of the short, I don't want to say short term, but the issues that can be resolved in real time. And I think that's important context, because technological failure, I think, suggests kind of, major incidences. And that's not necessarily the case for these two options, because there's a real-time solution available. So that's my additional context there.
Would we also, would this also be a good place to talk about data security? Like the data that's being submitted by applicants? I don't know if that.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, is there a certain specific concern or?
Yeah, I think mostly around, I mean, I feel like especially right now with the amount of data breaches and everything that we see just in general in life, like the amount if we wouldn't have very much control over not that we don't trust the UBE, they've been doing this for a very long time, but we wouldn't have control over what they're doing with the data that they're getting from applicants. And so I guess that would also be something we'd want to know, is, what are they doing to protect applicants' data? Where is that data going? What is it being used for? Things like that. I think it's like probably on the lower end of the things that that are probably being worried over, but I know those were some of the questions that we were discussing way back when we were considering February. And so I think that's also something important to note for as far as sure, exam security is important and we don't want people to cheat, but we also don't want applicants' data to be out on the web.
Yeah, I mean, Ash, that's interesting because I think the same concern applies for a vendor that we select to go with option one. So perhaps there's an assessment to understand
both
which vendor, whether it's NextGen's vendor for their exam or the ones that we maybe could consider under the use of Kaplan option, whether there's some assurance or greater assurance under one vendor over another. I think that's an interesting risk to be considerate of. I'm going to place it here just for now, but I'm going to note that it applies on both sides of this table here.
Definitely.
I guess a little bit of the difference is that if we're contracting with a vendor directly, we may have audit rights to make sure they're CCPA or CPRA compliant. Whereas if it's a NCBE vendor, we have maybe representations from them that they're compliant, but no way of confirming that independently.
I forgot that Chris would probably have a lot more information about this than I would. I definitely would not.
My suspicion is, I mean, anyone who's doing business in California will have to be compliant with those laws, or should be, I should say, compliant with those laws. So probably my instinct is it's probably not a huge risk, but it is definitely something to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. Anything else in this section before we move on?
I guess talking about tech reminds me, this might be more for the transparency section that we talked about, but I guess the use of AI in developing questions. I think the NCB says it's not using it, but if it does in the future, I'm not sure how much information it'll provide jurisdictions, and then we wouldn't have any kind of control over it. So maybe it's a benefit for the state bars, or maybe a risk. that we have no control if they will ever use AI in the future or how they will use it.
Yeah, Julie, that's an interesting one. There's another bill in the legislature right now regarding use of artificial intelligence on state bar exams and grading. It hasn't passed. Yeah, I mean, it's introduced. But that's interesting. Under this option, we would have much less control over whether or not those tools are used in the future. So I think that's worth noting here. Thank you. So the next section, support and accommodations. And this obviously applies to the granting and administering of testing accommodations, but it also touches on the level of kind of technical and customer type support and who delivers that support to examinees during the process. So one of the things that we note in this section is that under the Adopt Next Gen UBE model, there is some amount of the technical support that is managed by the NCB or its vendor, and the state bar typically directs test takers to engage the relevant vendors for the types of support that the vendors offer. So there would be for a lot of test takers, circumstances in which our response would be to connect with NCBE or their vendor directly to help resolve issues. That can create maybe kind of a dissonance in their ability to kind of get the support they need, or certainly like creates a gap between our applicants and the state bar that can create kind of some information gaps and challenges. Any thoughts here before I move to the next section?
So I would also, I think we left something out here in terms of one of the requests for accommodations that we often get that we do not currently provide, but which is built into the platform. So this would be a benefit to examinees, is stop the clock breaks. And that's something that we do not currently provide, but is built into the system.
One thing I'll spotlight here, it's in the risk to the state bar under option 1. We had this experience to some extent during the February examination, which is there's a set of features that a vendor will offer, of course. And then there are features that maybe are of importance to the state bar that require custom development. And so a risk to the state bar for option 1 is that we are tasked with identifying and managing the vendor, and to some extent working with the vendor to develop and implement whatever features it is that are of importance to us, or to make certain decisions about which features we're willing to forego. The flip side of that is with the Next Gen UBE, they determine which features are developed, but as I mentioned, we've seen to some extent that there's a robust set of accessibility features, and I think if we go with option 1, it would be work on our end to ensure that we either get a vendor that already offers those right out of the gate, or work closely with them to do a custom development, which can take time and some additional cost.
I think the sort of the implicit in what Cody is saying is really for a lot of these items where we're talking about the benefit to the state bar for Kaplan being that we've got greater control, and the risk for adopting UBE that we don't have control. Implicit in that is in order for that to be a benefit to the state bar, to have greater control, we need to be able to pull it off, right? And so that's looking at your guiding principle of, lessons learned from the February bar exam. That's also something that you need to keep in mind is, is it, in the interest of control, are we are we sort of identifying something that we have the ability, we have the resources, we have the skills to pull off in sort of a variety of these different tables throughout here. That having the control means that you will manage the vendor, that you will, as Cody was just saying, sort of making the right decisions about the features that need to be added, that we will do the testing that's required to add those features. And one of the things that we talked about at I think it was at the January meeting, that we talked about was attending the beta test sort of brought home for me that NCB originally tried out a different vendor for their platform, and it didn't meet the needs. Anything that we would do, we would need to ensure that we were leaving time to be able to test the vendor, test the functionality that we thought was what we needed, leaving time for it to fail so that it could be replaced with something that does in fact meet the needs. That was just something that really struck me when I saw the platform that they were using. Was, yeah, that's not the first platform that they tried.
Okay, we're almost to the bottom here. The next is whether or not an option better supports the exam's ability to assess minimum competency. And the summary, I think, identifies not only kind of our baseline, what it means to measure minimum competency, but also the fact that the Supreme Court has specifically identified some goals as far as testing professional ethics and responsibility in its order to the state bar. And so it's trying to combine, I think, several of the kind of mandates that guide what makes an appropriate exam currently and for the future. So there's the table of the benefits and risks. One of the areas here that I think I'll just point out, and this came up as part of our discussion with the law schools at the Law School Council, we've put in option 1, use of Kaplan, that a benefit is the ability to test California specific doctrinal areas. I think we've seen in many of the discussions already whether or not that is necessary to properly assess minimum competency is something that I think has been debated amongst the members and the different stakeholder groups. It's currently there as a benefit, but perhaps it's not, shouldn't be taken as a given, I guess, is what I'm trying to identify. I think maybe another trend here too that I can flag, under the use of Kaplan model, the exam will, at least initially, continue to be multiple choice questions, performance test questions, and essays. In that sense, it will mean that there's no change to the level of memorization required to perform well on the exam. Under the Adopt Next Gen option, that exam, it's intended to test more of the skills side of things. It's got a greater emphasis on measuring skills. The blueprint provided for the exam distinguishes between the areas that require knowledge of legal concepts and those that are require demonstration of skills. And so option 1 really is, at least initially, a commitment to not make strides towards less memorization.
And Danette, sorry, I see your hand.
I just want to point out, Next Gen will still contain about 150 multiple choice questions. 120 will be standalone, and then the rest will be sprinkled throughout the item sets. So it's not that there's any less multiple choice questions. So if the thought is that memorization is associated with an item format, that's not going to be very different, at least not in the outset for both exams. So I'm not saying one versus the other, but we can't say that the memorization is less. And the other thing is that I think you're overlooking the fact that there are skills that you're testing with essays and your performance task, and could, definitely highlight those in any further development that you do. It wouldn't mean changing the test necessarily. It would just mean recognizing the skills you intend to measure.
Thank you. All right, well, Cody's typing. Any other points that we think are missing here, or anything we need to bulk up?
It's just, if there's no change to memorization required, is that kind of a benefit too, in a way? Like, I could see it both ways, where it's not a big change, from what's been going on. So it's not, a big risk to test takers. It's, what's we've been doing for years. So I could see it either way, as, as a risk or a benefit, that there's kind of no change from the standard way, or the way it's been going on right now.
Yeah, I can certainly see that, Julianne. But also, right, part of the reason that the Blue Ribbon Commission recommended and the court adopted sort of the change to reduce the focus on memorization, increase the focus on skills, they identified the particular skills they wanted to test, is because there were arguments made that the current structure of the exam does not test minimum competence to practice law. And that's why a new structure was needed to do that. And so if we are sort of continuing with that old structure, are we making any strides to improving the ability of the exam to test minimum competence?
Thanks, Donna.
And I think this was our last chart.
Yep, that was the last chart. Actually, I had just a few more slides just to point out a few other elements of the report here. And let me just bring those.
And obviously, if you all have comments on other elements of the report, that's why we wanted to sort of touch on these. Please provide us that input as well. All of that will be helpful as we take this from this preliminary draft to a complete draft for March 13th.
So the way the report is currently written, I think we really we're aiming to make it simple for the audience to understand whether or not we've been responsive to the requirements under Rule 9.6b. So we have headers for B1, it then moves on to Rule 9.6b2 and so on. So I just want to touch on those other headers and either what currently is in those sections or what to expect. So under 9.6b2, this requires that we evaluate whether there's any alternative or existing products or services that are feasible to accomplish the same goals and objectives. It's our assessment at this point that this is really not applicable to our current evaluation. There really is no status quo or an existing exam to compare to because of the fact that the multi-state bar exam will no longer be available beginning July 2028, meaning the alternative to compare to is Next Gen, which is itself a new option. So what we will be communicating in the report is that while we think there's not an existing product to compare to, that there's still immense value in comparing the two options that are being considered and researched, and comparing between those to consider how those two options would accomplish the same goals and objectives that the board and the committee are striving for. So our analysis is really going to compare these two options as opposed to some alternative, because there is not an existing alternative to look at. What is going to be built out further in the report is the appendix area. Currently in the appendix, there are a number of tables with information known about the development and administration of both options, as well as another table that summarizes the principles and goals that are guiding these discussions. So there'll be, I think, a number of pieces of information and visualizations in the report to help compare the two options, but it's important. We just wanted to point out that there's no existing product that we'll be comparing to. I'll just briefly touch on this, but 9.6b3 requires that we assess the impact of new technological requirements or fees. Much of that's going to be incorporated into the tangible and intangible risks and benefits that are covered in the 9.6b1 portion of the report. We already touched on a lot of these, but we had risks and benefits under the use of Kaplan model and the adopt next-gen UBE option, such as the costs that are passed down due to the vendors, the technology requirements, confidence or lack of confidence in the vendor, and some of these other elements. All that captured in the 9.6b1 portion of the report, but still responsive to the requirements under 9.6b3. Then there's a section under Rule 9.6b4, and we currently have this pending, so there's not much content there. But as you all recall, and Donna mentioned earlier, at the January meeting, we presented that high-level cost analysis that didn't have numbers, but it had kind of these symbols representing our best estimate of kind of the scale of a cost increase or decrease. We will be enhancing that chart and focusing on comparing these two options, and that will be included in the final report. In that cost assessment, we indicate where there's an impact on the needs for additional staff, or where there'd be a reduction in staff. So that report will flesh that out further. But in our preliminary assessment that was provided in January, just a few examples were staff's expectation that if we continue to use Kaplan, or if we go with the use Kaplan option, we would continue to need the same level of staff for administering the exam. At least initially, the administration would look very much the same as it is today. We would also require the same level of staff for exam content development, because we would be developing all the questions for that exam. And while not explicitly staff, that option would also mean that we continue to retain many of our outside contractors that we have for subject matter expert review, content validation panels, et cetera. Under the next-gen UBE option, our January assessment, and again, this will be fleshed out further in the final report, but is that our expectation would be that because the next-gen UBE is a computer-based only examination, there'd be much less material that needs to be sent to test sites, less preparation at the test sites. And so over time, there could be a decrease in staff related to exam administration through attrition of staff. And that's indicated on that January report. Don, I saw you're unmuted. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, so it's also it's not just less preparation at the test site, but it's also in advance, all the preparation to get ready to send all the paper to the test sites, and then the breaking down everything after the exam. So there's sort of during exam, pre-exam, and post-exam work that would no longer need to be done. It would no longer require the amount of staff that currently do it.
I'll just briefly touch on this because Donna really touched on this earlier, but 9.6B5 requires that we identify the timeline for implementing the options. As we noted, if we go with the use of Kaplan option, the earliest that this could be administered is February 2028, after providing the necessary notice. We could evaluate the next gen UBE in early 2029 after administration by the larger jurisdictions, and then by July 31 at the earliest could be the earliest possible date to adopt next gen UBE if a future decision is made following the 2029 assessment. For adopting next gen UBE is just the selection. The earliest that this could be implemented is July 2028 after the 2-year notice. And then we've discussed neither of these options really preclude a future decision on development efforts. If the next gen UBE is adopted and there is a decision to add a California component, we believe between July 2026 and July 2027 would be necessary to develop content maps and do kind of the necessary prep work for setting the scope of that California component. And then from there, there'd be a notice requirement. So the delivery for that component would be July 2029. And we've been, I think, really honest and trying to be very candid about what it would take to develop a new California exam if that is a future decision that's made. And we really look at that as a long-term commitment of a 5 to 10-year development window. And lastly, under Business and Professions Code 6046.2, we need to report on the efficiency and cost of administering an alternative compared to the uniform bar exam. All of the information necessary to make that analysis will be included in the risk and benefits section of the report. And we've included in the preliminary draft of the report just an early assessment. Our very early assessment is that the Next Gen UB offers greater operational efficiency for the State Bar because the NCB is responsible for a number of critical tasks. Use of Kaplan provides the flexibility for the State Bar to pursue some of the cost-lowering measures, but it adds the operational workload and risks associated with being responsible for those tasks, for the set of tasks to develop and administer the exam. And while adopting NextGen avoids costs related to exam development and review, there's a lack of control over the fees that are related to administering or purchasing the exam and the technology fees for the NCBE. All right. Any questions or additional comments? Okay. Well, as we mentioned, the next steps will be to incorporate some of the feedback we received today, and there'll be an additional draft, a modified draft that will be presented at the next meeting on March 13th.
Perfect. Thank you. And I believe that is everything we had on the agenda aside from closed session, but we didn't need closed session. So unless anyone tells me otherwise, I believe we are ready to wrap up. Any final questions or anything regarding any of the content that we've seen today before we let go of everybody?
I just ask just a really quick general question for the report under 6046.2. What is the legislature like using that for? Are they told us any like specifics? If Dixon's already trying to push for next gen UBE already, what's kind of the goal of making the report, if known?
That's a fair question. Certainly the assumption was that we would be providing that report, and it had a due date of no later than November 2026. The assumption when when we were looking at the language of the bill last year, was that that report would be used to determine whether or not the legislature or members of the legislature would be sort of interested in communicating their strong desires to the Supreme Court about what the exam should be going forward. The fact that there is legislation introduced now that would be effective before the report is technically due suggests that some in the legislature may be prepared to make a decision on what they think is the right exam prior to the results of that study. It's certainly also it's sort of again sort of a way to signify the preferences of the legislature or some legislators to send a message as the committee and the board and the Supreme Court are ultimately making their recommendations and decisions. So, all I can do is speculate, but those are some thoughts.
Thanks, Donna.
Ashley, before we adjourn, can I just clarify, as chair, you're indicating that we're going to withdraw the closed session item 1.1?
Yes,
Okay, take this for the record. Appreciate it.
we'll withdraw.
Withdraw.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for your time today. I think that this subcommittee has a very important job ahead of us, and we appreciate all of the commitment to exam development, especially from staff. I very much appreciate the thoughtful public comments that we received for this first meeting, especially because it's the first meeting. It provides, I think, us with a lot of context that we need from stakeholders. And so with that, I believe we're done, so we can wrap up. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.